The Cranlee K2 Cycle Challenge, starting in beautiful Tairua, 192 kilometres is in front of the 1,500 cyclists starting today's event.
Last few years it's been pretty rough, so it's nice to have a fine day. Field too, so it'll be interesting out there. Just between you and me, I think James Early or possibly Aaron Strong are the guys to watch today. So on the hills, although the course makes it interesting with the long flat in the last 100 k's. So yeah, we'll see.
The K2 is a unique event, one of the most challenging rides in the Southern Hemisphere. It covers 192 kilometres and has 2,300 metres of climbing. It's been won by some of New Zealand's most outstanding riders. The race was first won back in 2003 by Glenn Mitchell, who won the race 3 years in a row. Jeremy Yates is a 4 times winner. Michael Torkler won in 2011, but who will it be in 2012?
I think I'll take it a bit easier this year, have a quiet ride for a while. Yeah. Should be alright. There's a good sized field, I think full 75 starters, so it's, yeah, it'll be easy, should be good.
So we've just heard from Jim McMurray, one of the big chances today in the overall in this category, which is, there's an elite section which started before this, and then we have I suppose the sportive, the recreational, the competitive weekend warriors, if you like. But in that group there's some very, very competitive riders like Jim McMurray, he is the New Zealand veteran road champion. As the riders head out of the start in Tairua, they climb pretty quickly onto Pumpkin Hill, one of the many big climbs. Early in the race, it's not really the time to break away with being 192 kilometres in distance. The idea with the climbs is to try and go with a small group, work together, but you really need, in a 192 kilometre race, a group of around 20 to 30 riders for as much of the race as possible.
Good steady pace, quite fast up the first climb. So no, this is good.
What makes the K2 Challenge unique is each year it starts in a different place, so we go from point to point. Tairua to Whitianga is 43 kilometres, and the race is broken up pretty much in 50 kilometre chunks. So the first part of the race, as I said, Tairua through to Whitianga, Whitianga to Coromandel, Coromandel to Thames, Thames back to the start in Tairua. It's important at this stage of the race that the riders work together, they take on nutrition. A beautiful hot sunny day for the 2012 Cranlee K2 Cycle Challenge. So if you haven't got your nutrition right, that means a lot of drinking, taking in lots of fluids, lots of hydration. The big climbs can take it out of you. So the pace has been on right from the start. You can see the riders, they should really be sharing the workload. Often on a fun ride like this you do get a lot of passengers, but it's important to work together. One rider going away off the front here, Toby Atkinson. It's a tough thing to do on your own. You feel pretty good on the flat, but then when you start to climbing, the bunch can quickly work together and close you down. So this ride, when there's 2,300 metres of climbing, there's also a lot of descending, and the descents are very tight, particularly as we come out of Coromandel.
That's impressive. Unfortunately, it's too big of a race to be able to, do on your own. You just got to have someone to come over and haven't you?
So it was Toby Atkins trying to stay ahead of the peloton on his way to Whitianga, and the big group chasing behind. They will probably pick him up just before they get into Whitianga. It's not really a day for solo attacks this early in the race. It's still, we really haven't even got through the first stage yet, so the first 43 kilometres of this 192 kilometre event. So as the riders all grouped together as they come into Whitianga. Whitianga, the very famous coastal town on the Coromandel, a very popular holiday and beach resort. Beautiful place to go is this whole route around the K2 Challenge. The scenery is absolutely amazing on a day like today. The riders, I hope they've got time to take in the view, because if we compare it to the 2011 event when Michael Torkler won in the rain, if you like, today is just absolutely perfect conditions. Some would say a little bit too warm for some of the riders, a little bit behind the leading group, who will take maybe up to 7.5 hours to get around this 192 kilometre course. There we go, some riders taking on nutrition, some water. When you're coming up to a feed station, there's no, it's coming up, and to be near the front of the group, so you can go through, quickly grab the bottle. So one of the many beautiful beaches on this Cranley K2 course around the Coromandel. I'm sure the riders today will just love to stop with the heat that's out there and jump in for a swim. Because the race attracts a lot of former greats, and there we are catching up with Matt Brick.
Strategy, stay on, hang for as long as I can with these young fellas.
Dr. Matt Brick, former world duathlon champion, and gee, he can still really put the power into the pedals and cause some of those young legs to hurt on an event like this. The riders are on this 800-metre climb. It's a big climb, Whangapaua climb, headed down into Coromandel. One of the real traditional sort of climbs, if you like, something you see a little bit in Europe, not quite as long, but you've got the windy turns, and it's a terrific event. Craig Burke, you can see the effort he's putting in there. Paul de Ritz from Palmerston North is the other rider with him, and they've made a little bit of a break over this on this big climb. Now, a very tricky descent down the other side. Coromandel Township, out towards the Firth of Thames, the Hauraki Gulf. It's absolutely stunning scenery. So my advice would be to stop and have a look at the view on a day like today. But these riders, they've got one goal in mind: to finish the 192 kilometres of the Cranley K2 Cycle Challenge. So as the riders come out of Coromandel, they have two very sharp climbs, about 200 metres each. Quite a brutal sort of climb, and they can really snap your legs, especially when you've gone over a big climb like they've just been over the Whangapaua Hill. They come over those two climbs, and then they'll get a little bit of respite as they head down towards Thames, and they'll go along that beautiful coast, which just is fairly flat, a little bit rolling, stunning scenery right up against the beach. Again, we'll cross one of those one-lane bridges that have been controlled by the fantastic traffic management on the K2. Through the bush, under the trees, a little bit of respite from the heat, a little bit of shade. Today the wind's not too bad as well, so perfect conditions along here. So the riders, they'll string themselves out. Matt Brick there just towing them along. He'll be quite happy to sit on the front. There we go, he's nice and relaxed sitting on Matt's wheel. But this is a stage of the race where you have to be eating, drinking, doing everything right. You're coming into the last half of the race, and you've come through down this coast, through the township of Thames. You head out of Thames and you've got to go over the Kopu Hikawai, another big hill. So that'll start to hurt now. The Kopu Hikawai on its own, when the race starts in Thames Township's not so bad, but after this sort of distance, it can really hurt your legs. But a little way to go for these riders. They can just relax, enjoy the view, enjoy the scenery of the beautiful Firth of Thames coast. So the riders have been through Thames, just heading out of Thames towards the Kopu. They know what's coming up, these riders. Most of them have ridden this race more than once. Remember, it's the 11th edition of the Cranley K2 Cycle Challenge. So there we go, we're coming out of Thames, so coming on to the very tough 14 kilometre, 425 metres high, the Kopu Hill. So this is the sort of hill where you've got to find a good rhythm for yourself. It's quite a fast climb, even though it's long in length. It's sort of like climbing a little bit of the Alps in the Tour de France, although not quite as high, but the nice, fast, big corners, good surface, but it's a long way up. And if you haven't got good legs, you haven't done things right on the climb, there we see Jim McMurray. Now he's trying to rejoin the group after dropping his chain earlier on the climb. Now he'll be disappointed, but he's gone back to that group, no problem at all. So they're now in the last sort of stage of this one-day race, if you like. It's Thames to Tairua, 53 kilometres, but they're on the Kopu climb, the 14 kilometre climb. There's Jim McMurray. Of course, Jim, one of the, well, he is the New Zealand veteran road champion. So the riders in that lead group: Lester Perry, Mark Carter, Mark Donald, Sam Dobbs and Steve Dean. So the winning of the leading riders, the winning rider will probably come out of this group, because there's some of the riders coming off the Kopu now. They're trying to make contact with that front group. It's a big, long, fast descent. Heading towards the finish in Tairua, 192 kilometres, the Cranley K2 Cycle Classic. Jim McMurray leading Mark Donald. You can just see how fast this leading group's going. They just pass a couple of the riders that started in the elite race. Ahead of this main fun ride group, which are for club, competitive, recreational cyclists. The riders that don't want to race with the elite riders who go on from this to generally ride the Tour of Southland. A race that Jeremy Yates made famous, winning this 4 times and then going down to try and win the Tour of Southland. Unfortunately for Jeremy, the Southland race, a race he never won, but Glenn Mitchell, the past winner of this race, successfully went from here to win the Tour of Southland. So they've gone past the Pauanui turn off. The 3 riders in the lead: Jim McMurray, Mark Donald, Sam Dobbs. These are the guys with the best legs as they head in towards the finish in Tairua at the end of 192 kilometres. So Sam Dobbs, he jumps away from Jim McMurray to take out the Cranley K2 Cycle Challenge. McMurray, a fine ride in 2nd place, followed by Mark Donald in 3rd, and then former New Zealand road champion Dean Pettican coming in 4th. Well, a great day on the Coromandel for the riders. The big crowds at the finish watching all the riders come in Tairua. It's been a long, tough day for these guys, but they've certainly enjoyed the scenery, and now they'll enjoy the coast, the view, the hospitality at the finish that we always get from the organisers of the Cranley Cycle Challenge, where the war stories will be told at the finish. In the Cranley elite section, it was Wellington's Andy Hagan who took the victory in a time of 5 hours 24 and 55 seconds from Josh Page of Hastings and James Earley of Christchurch. The Harlequin K1's Women Elites race was won by Georgia Williams of Auckland from Sarah Morrison and Tony Strong. Because of an indiscretion on the course around feeding, Sam Dobbs was relegated from the win, so officially the win goes to Jim McMurray from Mark Donald and Dean Pettican. Well, that wraps up our coverage from the Cranley K2 Cycle Challenge, but start training for next year. Keep an eye out for the entries. They're open right now, November the 2nd, 2013.